if you want to support the show, any of the shows, either this or whichever show, I'm not on right now because this is just a blanket ad for all of them, and the website, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com. In the description for any of the episodes of Beware of Spoilers, there is the option to donate. If you don't want to donate that way, you can donate directly through the website. We do have that, mwpnews.com. And if you don't want to support that way, then going to mwpnews.com will help out because we have ads there. We don't want to keep it, where there's a lot of ads. There's a few ads. But the point is we want to make it so that way, we can sustain this for the long term. If people donate, we're never going to paywall anything, I don't think, as of right now. But you know, if people start donating, we'll start doing cooler and cooler stuff. Like donations are how we get to cover stuff like Tribeca and other, film festivals. And, we may be able to bring on more people to help out. So if you want to help out the show and you want more content from us, by all means, even just going and giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify helps out a lot. But that's it. That's the only ad we'll have on the podcast ever. But here's whatever podcast you're going to be listening to. Good afternoon, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam, here with the 8th and final episode of Doctor Who on Disney Plus, the first season with the Disney cash infusion, the first season of the kind of soft reboot, the first season where we get to see, what's the new direction of this show. And retrospectively, we probably should have been able to figure out that Sutekh was going to have something to do with this, considering the show is called Empire of Death, and earlier this season we had the We had the episodes where we introduced Maestro and we had Toymaker, and their references to them as gods. Now I didn't watch as much of the original show, which is to say, any past whatever episodes of season 1 were available to watch on Daily Motion 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So, I wasn't super familiar, but it is what it is. Now let's talk about, we're going to do what we normally do, talk about the episode, and then we're going to talk about what we think of the season overall. In terms of this episode, I think that, and the issue is it's hard to not separate the two because this is the culmination of a few season-long mysteries. Who is Ruby's mother? What role does Ruby's mother have in this whole mystery? And why is that such a big deal? That all is a major player in this episode, and it's hard to not address that in the confines of what we've done in this run, including even the Church on Ruby Road, to start it out. But I think let's just do overall season thoughts first. I think the episode is pretty fine. I think the episode is enjoyable enough. I think enough happens in the episode, and I think that they do a good enough job of landing the emotional moments that it works. Especially at the end. I think the big reunion between Ruby and her mother is a great moment for the show, and I think the way they handled it so well. And I think Ruby's departure from the TARDIS is also emotional, and it also lands. This is probably not going to be her permanent departure from the TARDIS. I see her as kind of this felt to me like the season 13 finale of the revival, where where Clara is back with her family and all that, and she's no longer traveling as a full-time companion. This is all she does. She'll jump in for adventures. That's kind of what this felt like to me. I think we're gonna get more Ruby in the future, but at the same time, if we don't get more Ruby, I'm fine with that. Because I think her personality works with the Doctor, and she was one of those things where it's it took a bit for her to grow on me. I did not find her, her overeager and all of that, and especially when you take that and mix it with the personality of this Doctor, especially early of the season. This Doctor, it was a little bit like you gotta calm down. Like that first episode with like the space babies, and then like what was the second episode? Um, the second episode was the one with the Beatles. Like they were the least enjoyable parts of it. But they did hit their strides this season. We're not. Like by the time you get to like Rogue was a standout episode. I think 77 meters was a standout episode. Um, and by the time you get to that point, the show really did hit its stride, and you got a lot of really great moments with these two characters. Now, I think that they did a lot of misdirects in terms of who Ruby's mother is, and I feel like that may have undermined the show a little bit, especially considering the route that it took. And I read somewhere that he was influenced by The Last Jedi, where it's like in the first part you have all these things of like who was Rey's parents, and then you get to The Last Jedi and it's like, well, Rey is nobody. Um, and that's a great, it would have been great if they stuck with that, but it is what it is. And then it goes to this idea that like it's this here they do the same thing, but I think the key difference is like there was no plan for the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. There was clearly a plan for this. Um, and they had that going into it because this is all Russell T Davies. I may have said Neil Gaiman. I didn't mean that. I meant Russell T Davies. Um, he was the showrunner on it, so they knew what they were doing from the beginning. It's just kind of like, oh, look over here, look over here, look over here. And in reality, for it to just be, she was a 15-year-old who got pregnant at the hands of her boyfriend, who was also 15, and they came from and the boyfriend came from an abusive household, like, and she just gave up the baby because that was the thing to do because she couldn't raise it and bring it into that household would have been terrible for Ruby. Like it's a good thing, and I think the message of them being like the this idea of like the bare minimum of the ordinary is the thing that baffled the gods so much that it became a sticking point because it's like he who knows everything could not answer this as the god of death, and that was the thing that kind of set him off and put him on this path. That's a really interesting thing. I just would have rather we didn't get the entire season of like, oh well, who is Ruby? Who are Ruby's parents? What is Ruby up to? All of that. Because I think that ultimately was a disservice at a certain point to the character, just like it was to Rey. Like to sit there and build her up, build her up, build her up, and then to be like, oh, they were nobody. Like it's one of those things where it's like I don't like ultimately had they stuck with that would have been fine, but then here it's the issue of like, I think they go way deeper in the oh well, who actually are Ruby's parents, what actually is her heritage, and what impact does that have? Like I think that like the amount of red herrings they throw at that for who it is a little unsatisfying. Um, and that's kind of the issue is that it's like especially considering that they keep playing with these powers, it felt a little bit like oh okay, like the messaging is not bad, but it's just it would have worked better if the entire season they weren't building it up as she's got to be someone special, she's got to be someone special, she's got to be someone special, and then it's like well she's not. It's just the god was there and was confused, and that's what it was that set this entire thing. You know, I made it that way they could defeat him. Um, but like that said, it's like by the time I think that the payoff to it is fantastic. I think that like the payoff of her meeting her mother in the what's it called, um, in the coffee shop, but she gets the coffee, she sits down, near her, and the guy calls out her name, and like there's the moment where the mom's like, because it turns out what the mom was pointing at was pointing at the sign to name her Ruby, and for the mom to look up and like and then for her to be like you know 18 years ago you left me on at a church on Ruby, like it's such a great moment, and then it's like for her to have that send off with the doctor where it's like okay well you don't really need to you know you don't need to come with me as much as you need to, and I think that what this feels like, the other thing this feels like, is that we see this a lot with like legacy sequel series to TV shows. Where in the past when we would do this or a spin-off, you'd have one or two characters who'd appear in the first episode, and it's like, oh, that's so and so. It's kind of like a bridging the gap kind of thing, where it's like fundamentally it's gonna be a mostly different cast, but you have these people here who show up and are like, oh, well, these are the same people that you know already. So like, you would get a few crossover characters in the beginning. Then, as the show goes up, like perfect example, when the Flash backdoor piloted out of Arrow in the first episode of the Flash, Oliver Queen is there. The narration that Barry's giving throughout the episode is him telling the story to Oliver. So like it's designed to be like, I mean, at that point it's very different because you don't need to sell the Flash, but it is what it is. So what we see now with a lot of these, like I'm thinking, especially with I see you see it a lot on Paramount Plus with the Star Trek shows, with the iCarly, with what was the other big one? Frasier is another one that's doing it now with more characters from the original show coming back this season. Um, as the show goes on, they bring in more legacy characters, and we had a few in this show. I mean, and Gemma's her name, Leftwich Stewart. Like it, like these are characters that have appeared in the past, and the point of this, the point I'm trying to make with this is, yeah, these are mainstay characters, but at the same time, this also exists to kind of bridge the gap for existing fans into that. It feels like what they're going to be going into next season is they're going to be bringing in more of these legacy characters, um, more characters that we know from previous shows. Not just, I think, was it Ace in the anniversary? Like, but even like in when the show first came back, it was kind of the same thing back in '05. Because back in '05, um, I don't think there was really any legacy characters returning, like played by the same actors and actresses. I mean, like the Master's in season two. Like there was one episode of Dalek, or however you pronounce it, but like there's one episode of that, and then there's one episode, and that's it. Like there is no one else. Like you don't even see the regeneration into Christopher Eccleston. He's just the Doctor. Um, like when you get to season two, that's where you get Sarah Jane coming back. Sarah Jane Smith and K9 come back. Um, that was season two. Or was that season three? Either way, it's like these characters start to come back as the show goes on. And to that end, I think next season we're going to see a new regeneration of Susan. I think that's a given. Because I think that what we have is whoever this bad guy is, who is this woman who, has that great line where it's like, Are you a religious person? Yeah. Do you believe in the power of prayer?" She's like, "Well, then make peace with your God, dude. This fucking shit's coming." Like that whole thing is like her being the narrator at the end and being like his story will end in terror. Like I think that in order for that to happen, the thing the Doctor is most afraid of is losing the people who trust him. So I think that like for this to happen, you need to bring back more legacy companions. I don't think you can get Amy and Rory back because, dumbassery of their ending be damned, they're not coming back. I think we could get back River Song. I think we could get back Martha. I think we could get back Donna again. I think we could get back. I'm just talking about the new companions. Um, like I think Clara is not dead. I think she's just kind of in stasis at the point of her death, living out for eternity. Like so she doesn't die, but you could bring her back. I think you definitely get a Susan regeneration. Um, because that would be, and that's the thing is that it's like whoever this is going to be someone who's going to threaten the lives of all of the Doctor's loved ones, and I'll say it. I'll probably be wrong because I've been wrong up until this point, but I'll say it. I mean, look, I'll say this. I was half right because I did say it was going to be the father of the gods. I just thought it was going to be a writer, not a what's it called, not the god of death, but he was the father of all the gods. So I'll say this. I think what we end up with is this woman is a new regeneration of the Master. I think that that's what it's going to be. She's going to be, the new regeneration of the Master to do that. Or, never mind, that's probably not it. But we'll wrap up there for today. This season, let's do our review scale. Our review scale is 4 stars. Watch it immediately on the streaming service. If you don't have the streaming service, get it. Number 3. All the way down to a 1, which is if you like, it's not worth watching at all. This is a 4. I think that like the season has its weak moments. The season is not perfect, and there's a lot of things that could have been done better. But fundamentally, a lot of the things that do work very well. So this is a solid 4 on our scale. But we'll wrap up there for today. And until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.